Recall that when we zoom in on a triangle or photocopy it larger, the angles don't change, only the lengths of the sides do. This second triangle is 2 times larger than the first, and this triangle is 2 times larger than the middle one, but it's also 4 times larger than the original. The ratio of the side opposite to the adjacent side of the angle is the same. Here we have 1/2, here we have 2/4, and here we have 4/8. The fractions reduce to 1/2. The ratio of the opposite over adjacent side to angle theta is 1/2. This ratio is called the tangent ratio. Tangent of an acute angle, such as theta, is the opposite side over the adjacent side. Calculate the tangent ratio of the labeled angle theta. The tangent ratio is opposite over adjacent. In other words, the tangent of the angle theta is the opposite side over the adjacent side length. Tan of the angle theta is 21 over 20. For this triangle, we're still asked to find the tangent ratio of the angle theta. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. Tangent of theta is opposite over adjacent. 12 divided by 5. Calculate the tangent ratio of the labeled angle theta. There's theta. We have an adjacent side and the hypotenuse. Now, it says use the tangent ratio, but this is not the tangent ratio. This is the cosine ratio. It is the quickest way to find the angle theta, but that's not what the question asks for. We need to find the opposite side in order to write the tangent ratio, because tangent is opposite over adjacent. We need to find the length of the opposite side. We have a squared plus b squared equals c squared, where c is the hypotenuse and the a and the b are the 2 legs of the right triangle. A squared is c squared minus b squared because we subtract b squared both sides, and a is the square root of c squared minus b squared. The opposite side is the square root of the hypotenuse squared minus the adjacent side squared. The square root of 47 squared minus 36 squared should give us the value for the opposite side. We have the square root of 47 squared minus 36 squared equals 30.215 is the length of the opposite side. Now we can find out the tangent of the angle theta because we have the opposite over adjacent side. Tangent of the angle is the opposite, 30.215, over the adjacent, 36. The tangent ratio of the angle theta is, leave this number in your calculator so that we don't have to retype it in. We have 30.215, which is the opposite side. Now we divide by 36. We get 0.8393, and that leaves us 0.8393. The question doesn't say how many decimal places, we'll just leave 4. This is the tangent ratio of the angle theta. A support cable is anchored to the ground. The cable is here and the ground is here. 5 meters from the base of a telephone pole. Here's the pole. And this distance is 5 meters. The pole is 19 meters high. The cable is attached near the top of the pole, and there's the top. To To the nearest degree, what angle does the cable make with the ground? Right here. Now, this cable is actually attached near the top. The pole does go higher than what's drawn, but it won't matter in this question. We have two lengths, the opposite and the adjacent side. And that's great because tangent is opposite over adjacent. Tangent of the angle is opposite side over adjacent side. Tangent of the angle is 19 divided by 5. The angle then is the inverse tan of 19 over 5. And the angle is, we need the inverse tan. 19 divided by 5 equals 75.256. 75.256. And it says to the nearest degree, we will round off to the nearest 75. The nearest degree is 75 degrees. Of course, the reason we could use this ratio in the first place is because we have a right angle right here. We're assuming that the pole is exactly perpendicular to the ground. Use the tangent ratio to calculate the angle of a right triangle where the hypotenuse is 13 and the side opposite the angle is 12. We're given opposite, we're given hypotenuse. That is not the tangent ratio. That is the sine ratio. But how would we find the tangent ratio? We need the adjacent side to get the tan ratio. The tangent ratio is the opposite over adjacent, or the tangent of the angle is opposite over adjacent. Let's find the adjacent. To get the adjacent, we need the Pythagorean theorem, where the c squared comes from the hypotenuse. The c is the hypotenuse, 13. Remember, a squared is c squared minus b squared, or a is the square root of c squared minus b squared. Or just think it's the hypotenuse squared, subtract the leg squared, and then the square root. 13 squared minus 12 squared, and we take the square root. The square root of 13 squared, subtract 12 squared, equals 5, and the leg would be a is equal to 5. This adjacent side is equal to 5. We have tangent of the angle equals 12 opposite over 5 adjacent. Remember, that's opposite and this is adjacent. The angle then is the inverse tan of 12 divided by 5. Second function, inverse tan, 12 divided by 5 equals 67.38. The angle is 67.38, which rounds to 67 degrees. Angle theta is 67 degrees.